The Constitutional Court says it'll deem the legal documents delivered to President Yoon for the impeachment trial as they remained unreceived. The first preparatory hearing will take place as scheduled on December 27th. And the president has apparently rejected the second summons request by a special investigation team over the martial law incident, which has demanded him to appear for questioning on December 25th. Amid the political turmoil, a high-level diplomat and a renowned businessman were in the U.S. over the weekend to manage the situation for the incoming Trump team. It's December 23rd, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. The Constitutional Court says it'll deem its legal documents delivered to the president as his security team apparently continues to reject accepting the papers on his behalf. Oh Soo-young leads us off.
The Constitutional Court has decided to move ahead with impeachment trial proceedings for President Yoon as the leader has not accepted nor responded to court documents sent to him over the past week. On Monday, the court announced that it would consider December 19th as the date it sent official documents to Yoon's residence, adding the 7-day deadline for his response would have been effective from the 20th upon the deemed delivery. The court also plans to proceed as planned with the first preparatory hearing on Friday, to gather and review materials and arguments from Yoon and the National Assembly, which voted to remove him from office over his imposition of martial law. Around 7 documents were sent, including the notice of receipt, a request for Yoon's response, the impeachment resolution, as well as the notification, attendance request, and the order for preparation.
The effectiveness of delivery is established when the legal documents reach the designated place, as per Supreme Court Precedent 98-53. Therefore, the effectiveness remains valid even if the documents are not actually received.
After being suspended from his duties, the leader is believed to be remaining at his residence. However, he has so far turned away at least 11 attempts to deliver court papers. Guards at his residence have reportedly refused to take mail on Yoon's behalf, and his office returned the post, saying he was unavailable. This marks the first time in South Korea's constitutional history that a president facing impeachment has not accepted documents from court. In contrast, former President Roh received impeachment papers the day after Parliament's vote in 2004, and former President Park Geun-hye received them on the same day of her impeachment in 2016.
While the court will continue with its proceedings as planned, it's unclear whether Yoon will respond within the 7-day deadline effective from the day of receiving documents. As of Monday, court officials say there has been no response from the president.
It's unlikely that Yoon himself would attend the first preparatory trial. Meanwhile, the National Assembly seems close to finalizing a legal team ahead of Friday's hearing. However, there are concerns the trial could face delays, deliberately or otherwise, if President Yoon's side fails to appoint legal representatives, refuses to attend, or claims more time is needed to review the documents. As of now, Yoon has not fully formed his legal team. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The planned questioning of President Yoon this week remains unclear as his office reportedly refused to comply with the second summons request by the investigation team. The president's legal team says impeachment proceedings should come before investigations. Kim Jong-sil reports.
The Special Investigative Team, including police and the Corruption Investigation Office for High-Ranking Officials, or the CIO, revealed on Monday that Yoon's office continues to refuse to accept notices to appear for questioning. This follows earlier refusals of similar requests, casting doubts on whether the investigation can proceed. Notices sent to Yoon's office and residence have been either rejected or left unopened. The team had requested his appearance on Christmas Day to address allegations linking him to the orchestration of the December 3rd martial law crisis, where he's accused of leading efforts to seize authority, sparking concerns over legal defiance. Legal experts say this refusal to cooperate could have significant consequences.
The way he's refusing to take delivery of these notices, refusing to attend either the prosecution or the the CIO to answer questions and essentially refusing to cooperate with the investigation in and of itself can constitute grounds for impeachment.
Adding to the tension, investigators are analyzing Yoon's personal phone records separate from his secure government line. Investigators are also looking into 7 figures, including former Defense Intelligence Command Chief No Sang-won and current Chief Moon Sang-ho, over so-called hamburger meetings, covert gatherings at a fast food restaurant where they allegedly discussed the details of martial law. A notebook seized from No apparently outlines troop deployments and plans to provoke a North Korean attack near the northern limit line, intensifying suspicions of his leading martial law efforts despite his civilian status. Meanwhile, Yoon's legal team argues that impeachment should take precedence over criminal investigations, citing former President Park Geun-hye's case. Critics, however, question whether this stance is a deliberate attempt to avoid accountability as a sitting president with suspended powers. 김정실, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, as lawmakers across the aisle and the government agreed to launch a joint consultative body, their first meeting will take place on Thursday to discuss how to manage current state affairs. Our correspondent Lee Si-hoo has this report.
After more than a week of back and forth, the ruling People Power Party and the main opposition Democratic Party agreed Monday to launch a joint consultative body between rival parties and the government to discuss current state affairs and measures to improve people's livelihoods. PPP's acting chairman and floor leader Kwon Sang-dong and the DP's floor leader Park Chan-dae, in their talks presided over by National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-sik, decided to hold the first meeting this Thursday on the 26th. For the time being, the two are fine-tuning details on the specifics of the joint talk, narrowing down its agendas and goals. Meanwhile, a further push on Monday from the opposition lawmakers to facilitate the impeachment process against President Yoon Suk-yeol. The Parliament's Special Committee on the Nomination of Constitutional Justices held hearings on 2 nominees, Ma Eun-hyuk and Jung Kae-sun, as recommended by the opposition blocs to join the Constitutional Court of Korea. This is an effort mainly by the DP and the rest of the opposition to fill the 3 empty seats at what is supposed to be a 9-member bench, which will make the final decision on Yoon's impeachment. But the ruling party continues to argue that the nominees, even if confirmed for nomination by the National Assembly, cannot be appointed by an acting president who does not hold the same authority. It also says the 2 nominees are politically biased and inappropriate to hold the seats, urging the DP to take back their suggestions. The PPP members refused to take part during Monday's hearings. They say if the Parliament's nominations do go through, they will go as far as to challenge the nomination by filing an official jurisdiction of the dispute to the court. By law, 3 constitutional justices are selected by the National Assembly and appointed by the President. Both nominees during the hearings vowed they will safeguard the constitutional order and secure the fundamental rights of the people. The opposition plans to hold one more hearing on Tuesday to question the 3rd nominee, Jo Han-chang, recommended by the ruling party, and get all 3 nominations approved by the whole assembly at a plenary session as early as this Thursday. The rival parties agreed to hold 2 more plenary sessions by the end of the year on the 26th and 31st. But the DP unilaterally approved 2 additional meetings before and after the dates and 2 more in January to review bills and question the government, while the PPP says doing so is unnecessary and it is ultimately up to the Assembly Speaker to decide on the schedule. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
First, Vice Foreign Minister Kim Hong-kyun is in Washington to meet with his American counterpart Kurt Campbell as the country focuses on strengthening relations with the United States following the short-lived declaration of martial law. And as the country gets ready for Trump's second term, South Korea's Shinsegae Group chairman says he briefly met with the U.S. president-elect. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji has the details.
As South Korea prepares for Trump's second presidency, First Vice Foreign Minister Kim Hong-kyun is on a visit to the United States for talks with the outgoing Biden administration. His trip appears to be part of South Korea's efforts to put relations with the United States back on track amid political turmoil following the brief imposition of martial law earlier this month. Speaking to reporters at Dulles International Airport in Washington, D.C. on Sunday, he said the Korean government has been communicating with the Trump team and added that they've already explained the current domestic situation, including the imposition of martial law and the impeachment proceedings against President Yoon. When asked how Trump's team perceives the situation in South Korea, Kim said they're likely to have understood the situation.
As the whole world has witnessed, South Korea's democracy has shown how resilient it is. So I'm sure they've clearly understood the situation.
But Kim added that there are no plans to meet anyone from the Trump side during his visit. He's set to meet with U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell on Monday local time, where they will likely discuss whether or not to hold a meeting between their foreign ministers before the end of Biden administration. Separately, South Korean retail conglomerate Shinsegae Group chairman Chung Yong-jin said Saturday that he had a brief talk with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump for around 10 to 15 minutes. While Chung refrained from further disclosing details about his talk, he explained that Trump's team showed interest in the current situation in South Korea.
Korea is a country with potential, so please trust and wait. We will quickly return to normal. That's all I said.
His brief meeting with the U.S. president-elect came as he stayed at Mar-a-Lago Resort at the invitation of Donald Trump Jr. Chung is the first South Korean known to have met Trump since his election win in November. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has reaffirmed intentions to put a quick end to Russia's war against Ukraine, adding that Vladimir Putin has voiced interest in a meeting in the near future. Ian Jin has more.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump said on Sunday that Russian President Vladimir Putin has expressed interest in meeting with him as soon as possible, and added that the horrible war needed to end. This was during his speech at America Fest, a political festival for conservatives put on by conservative nonprofit Turning Point. It was his first rally-style speech since winning the election. Touting his transition efforts at the event, Trump also reiterated that had he been in power, the war in Ukraine would not have happened. During his election campaign, Trump had claimed he could resolve the war in just one day. And recently, the president-elect has also stated that upon taking office, Ukraine would possibly receive less military aid from the U.S. During his annual end-of-year press conference on Thursday, Putin had expressed his readiness to meet with Trump. And in an interview with Russian journalists on Sunday, when asked about the possibility of improving relations with the United States, Putin said everything can be done if there is a desire, adding that Russia had never lost that desire. But Putin emphasized that while Russia is ready to find compromises, it would not be to the detriment of the interests of the Russian state, which he said holds true for all relations with foreign countries. Meanwhile, Putin hosted a meeting with Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico on Sunday, who arrived in Moscow on a surprise working visit. The one-on-one meeting focused on the international situation of the Ukraine war, as well as supplies of Russian gas to Slovakia. Fico has been a vocal critic against the European Union's support for Kiev in the war, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated at a summit in Brussels last week that he had no intention of renewing a deal allowing for Russian gas to transit to Slovakia through Ukraine. The 5-year agreement signed before the war is due to expire at the end of this year. Ian Jin, Arirang News.
A third homegrown South Korean spy satellite has been placed into orbit from a U.S. space center this past weekend. This means the country's surveillance capabilities on North Korea are ramped up. Choi Min-jung reports.
4, 3, 2, 1, ignition.
The country's third military reconnaissance satellite was successfully lifted into space on Saturday night, Korea time. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket carrying the domestically developed satellite was launched from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The satellite succeeded in communicating with the ground station shortly after entering orbit.
The third reconnaissance satellite successfully communicated with the domestic ground station, confirming that the satellite was in good working order.
The launch follows 2 successful liftoffs in December 2023 and a second one in April this year. The latest launch is part of South Korea's plan to deploy 5 spy satellites by 2025 to monitor the North with its homegrown satellite network. Once all 5 satellites have been placed in orbit, the military will be able to monitor a specific North Korean target every 2 hours.
We will be able to monitor North Korea dozens of times a day when the military's 4th and 5th reconnaissance satellites and microsatellite systems are launched in the future.
The satellites are capable of capturing images day and night, regardless of weather. The third satellite will go through operational testing over the next few months before carrying out surveillance and reconnaissance missions. Meanwhile, North Korea had announced that it would launch 3 reconnaissance satellites this year, but the South's military assessed that seems unlikely based on the current trends. The regime attempted to launch its second reconnaissance satellite back in May, but failed. Choi Min-dong, Arirang News.
Semiconductor shipments have been driving up exports this month. According to the Korea Customs Service on Monday, chip exports amounted to $40.3 billion during the first 20 days of December, up 6.8% on year. Overseas shipments of semiconductors alone rose 23%. Korea's exports have been expanding for the 14th month in a row up until November, but the rate of rise has been slowing since August. It has been an eventful year in sports. And for a wrap-up of the main sporting events of 2024, we're joined in the studio by our sports editor, Paul Neat. Hi, Paul.
Hello there.
So, sports-wise, 2024 began in earnest with the AFC Asian Cup in January.
Yes, and South Korea were among the favourites to win the competition. They reached the semi-finals, but fans were unhappy with the team's performances. The squad was seen as a golden generation with the likes of Son Heung-min, Kim Min-jae, Lee Gang-in and Hwang Hee-chan, among others, playing in Europe. But perceived lacklustre performances and a lack of tactics throughout the tournament meant that manager Jürgen Klinsmann was under fire. The KFA then parted company with him and began searching for a replacement. Hwang Sun-hong oversaw the qualifying games in March and Kim Do-hoon the ones in June. Eventually, Ulsan HD boss Hong Myung-bo was appointed, but not without controversy. Fans saw the process as lacking transparency, and this has remained a sensitive issue. So much so that the KFA chairman Chung Mong-gyu faces competition in the upcoming election.
A key member of that team is, of course, Captain Son Heung-min. What has been a year for him?
Yes, it's been eventful. He's further cemented himself as a Tottenham legend. Earlier this year, he became just the 14th player in the club's history to make 400 appearances. He also made his 300th appearance in the Premier League and moved into 5th in Tottenham's all-time goal-scoring charts. Also, he moved into the Premier League's top 20 goal scorers of all time. And just recently, Son broke Tottenham's Premier League assist record with his 68th. He'll also be joined by teen sensation Yang Min-hyuk, whose move to Spurs from Gangwon FC was announced when Tottenham came over to Korea to play the Kupang Play Series in July. Meanwhile, in May of this year, midfielder Hwang In-bom became only the second South Korean since Park Ji-sung to win a European League title. He won the Serbian Superliga and the Serbian Cup with Crvena Zvezda, also known as Red Star Belgrade. Hwang has since joined Dutch giants Feyenoord.
In the summer, we had Olympics, the Olympics and Paralympics, and Team Korea returned from Paris with plenty of medals.
Yes, equaling its own record for gold medals in the Olympics. 32 medals overall, 13 gold, 9 silver and 10 bronze to finish in 8th. The archery team claimed all 5 gold medals available for the very first time. For the women's team, it was their 10th consecutive Olympic title. Kim Woo-jin became the country's first male archer to win 3 gold medals in a single Olympics and set a record with 5 golds in his career, the most by any Olympian from this country. In shooting, Team Korea secured 3 gold and 3 silver, surpassing their previous best. In fencing, the men's sabre team, led by Oh Sang-uk, achieved a three-peat in the team event, while Oh also won the individual gold. Other highlights include 2 gold and 1 bronze in taekwondo after missing out in Tokyo. And a 12-year wait was ended in table tennis with 2 bronze, and also An Se-young won gold in badminton.
And finally, to Korea's domestic football and baseball leagues. It was a record-breaking year for attendances.
Yes, you're right. The K-League achieved 3 million paid fans for the second year in a row, but did so 3 rounds faster than last year. This is the second time since only paid spectators were counted in the official attendances. Back in March as well, FC Seoul set a new paid attendance record of 51,670 when fans flocked to see Jesse Lingard's home debut against Incheon United. Meanwhile, the KBO had over 10 million fans through the turnstiles this year, setting a new record. Also a new record is a league average of 15,000, and 9 of the 10 teams broke their own records, and that was for the first time. And also there were over 100 sellouts.
All right, thanks for that. See you next time, Paul.
Thank you.
Seoul will start the morning at -6 degrees Celsius tomorrow, which will continue the colder than usual temperatures. However, temperatures are expected to be similar to or slightly higher than the average temperatures on Christmas Day. Cold wave advisories are currently in place in northeastern parts of Gyeonggi-do Province, western parts of Gangwon-do Province, northern parts of Chungcheongbuk-do Province, and northern parts of Gyeongsangbuk-do Province. In addition, cold wave warnings are issued in Yeoncheon in Gyeonggi-do Province and Cheoran and Yanggu in Gangwon-do Province. This cold wave will ease off a bit on Christmas Day, but will be severe again on Friday. Tomorrow, Christmas Eve will start off at below 0 degrees in most parts of the country. Chuncheon -12 degrees, Daejeon -5 degrees. Highs will move up to 3 degrees in Seoul, Daegu and Gyeongju 8 degrees. It will be difficult to expect a white Christmas this year since there's no news of snow on Wednesday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.